on, we have Santosh today, which is our second last talk of the day. We are running a bit late, but that's what we have. So we have Santosh. Santosh is a freelancer based out of Pune. He has been working with Ruby for the past 5 years. When he's not coding, he mostly spends his time with his family and also likes to post images or photos wherever he goes. Today he'll be speaking about caching in Rails. It's all with Santosh.
So hello everybody. So are you guys feeling sleepy? So do one thing. Just clap your hands for 5 times when I say start. So do 1, 2, 3, start. Okay, yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So okay. So today I'm going to talk about caching in Rails, and we will see what is caching. We will see why do we need caching in our Rails application, and we will see also how caching really helps in our Rails application. So yeah, so I'm Santosh Odgole. I am freelancer. I'm doing Rails since 2010. And yeah, so in my spare time, I also contribute to open source project and mostly Ruby related projects. So you can find me on GitHub and Twitter, and Mechanical is my handle. So yeah, so go and follow me. So okay, I'm a foodie guy. So whenever I go to eat out, I definitely take food photos, and yeah, so yeah, you can find my more photos on Instagram. So yeah, so I think today morning I heard from the audience that they want to eat misal pav. So the top middle one, that is the actually misal pav. So if you are interested, I would suggest that go to Katakir. That is the one of the best places in Pune to have misal pav. So okay, let's start. So somebody already told that keep your request under 250 milliseconds so that your user fill your app so fast, or prepare to lose your friends when your request takes several seconds. So yeah, that's the thing. So we need to take care of it. Also, if your app has some 10 to 20 users, or maybe if your app has lots of users, but you don't care about scalability, then I don't know, miss. Okay, then play Pokemon Go. It's awesome. Okay, as a good developer, so everyone wants to their app should be good, and their users should be happy. So we need to think about that. So for that, caching also plays very important role to speed up your Rails app. So yeah. So yeah, caching is a process for storing data. So the future request for that data can be served faster. So it also improves your user experience. And caching is not just for serving your request part fast, but it also plays very important role to save a lot of money on other hardwares. So yeah, it keeps you and your users happy. So see. So this is the basic diagram of how does cache memory work. You see here the first request when client sends to the server. You can see it goes to the cache memory, and cache memory doesn't have that data, so it will go to your main resource, that is maybe your database or maybe your some kind of APIs, or it will fetch from there and it will store into that cache memory. And again, but for future request, so it will fetch from the cache memory. So so that is why the reading from cache memory is really fast, because you don't need to recompute your result, or you don't need to fetch from your some kind of APIs from the APIs. So yeah, and most of the time, the other cachings, they sit near to the requester, that is nothing but client. So that's why the network length is minimum, and that is one of the also the fact that your request and response becomes very fast. So okay, web cache. Uh, so actually, web browser and your proxy servers, we do have some components like proxy servers or CDN, content delivery network, or your proxy, reverse proxy server. Those, those, compon those components can have their own caching system. So, but they don't want to fetch the data from the main server, okay, for twice or for every request. So they like to keep their response, or they like to keep their web pages in their caching system. So you can see this is the components that we might get in network, or these components which maybe most of the time they support web caching. So it would be good if we uh, cache our web pages near to browser. So your network length or your network that length is very minimum. So so the request will be very fast. Okay, stop. So caching is not always a good way to make your app fast. You have to think and try to investigate that why your app is slow, why your action is taking several seconds, why your database queries taking several time or what, and check all those logs. There are also some solutions around that using means tools. There are tools like Bullet, like New Relic. Using those tools, you can trace out and you can find out where is the issue and solve it. Before using the caching, you have to solve this. Otherwise, you are doing something wrong. You're just for sake of your manager, you have used caching. Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, but that's the real thing. You have to solve it and then use caching. So otherwise, I will not support it. Okay. So this is the steps, or this is some kind of process that we need to take care before adding the caching. So use eager loading to avoid n+1 queries. Don't forget to add index on foreign keys. Try to use as much as possible instance variable caching that we do for, maybe you know we current user, that for that we use instance variable caching most of the time. And load only required JavaScript files in web pages. Don't add all the JavaScript files and load there some kind of, invoke there some functions on each page on your website. So that is wrong. Or minify and zip style sheets and JavaScript files. So these are the techniques that we need to follow. So this will also improve your speed of your Rails app or any type of app. Okay, there is one guy, Phil Carton. Okay, he said that there are only two hard things in computer science: cache invalidation and naming things. Adding the actual problem is adding a caching is very easy, but invalidating it's really hard. You have to track all those things that you have cached this stuff, you have cached this stuff at this point. So you have to, if data gets changed, then you have to manually, or you have to manually delete, or you have to hook some kind of function that will expire your cache. So it's very hard to invalidate the cache. So yeah, caching in Rails. Okay, caching comes with the bunch of features. Some of the features for caching. So we will go through these features in next slides. Okay, setting up caching in Rails. If you are using Rails for app, then you just need to add this. You just need to configure this setting. Just set perform true is equal to perform caching is equal to true. That's it. So this is only for development mode. In production mode it is by default enabled, so you don't need to you don't need to do anything. Or for Rails 5, this is a new way. So you just need to run this rake task, and it will create appropriate files. And yep, like it will enable your perform caching for the development mode. So just go through those files and check what are which kind of settings are there. So okay, page caching. Page caching is the fastest technique in Rails caching because okay, so like your app can have the same content or same page for all users, for your app, for your all users. So so like your Rails static pages, like web blog post, like your wiki pages, or maybe a newsletter. This content don't change frequently. So caching them, so it's really good. So once you cache this kind of page, so all the future requests will get served by the web server without hitting your Rails stack. So for this, if you want to use page caching for your static pages or for your blog post, which mostly don't get changed frequently, so you can install this gem, action page caching gem, in your gem file and just install it. Actually, before Rails 4, this was a part of Rails framework, but with Rails 4, they have moved this functionality into gem. So for Rails 4, we need to install it. Okay, so this is the basic diagram for Rails request without caching. So this is just request and response. There is anything special. So okay, so once we you can see we are firing some request over here. We want to fetch a post from our server, and we have added a page caching for that request. Okay, so once request comes to the server, it will copy all that entire content into your file directory under public directory. Okay, so and it will also send that response back to the client. But in the next feature request, your your web server, Apache server is nothing but your web server. It will directly, when same request comes, Apache web server will tries to match that file into your public directory, and if it gets from there, it will directly give that response back to the client. So yeah, so this is very I don't know, but if you have lots of users and they access your static file or like blog posts and you so cache them so that you can avoid unnecessary load on your load on your app server, like your Puma, like your Unicorn, or Mongrel, something like that. So okay, this is just about us page. This is a static page that gets generated from Rails, or maybe that is means app server. And when suppose we have lots of users and they hit this request so much time, I don't know, means 1,000 times per minute or whatever. So it's not good generating a static file from Rails and then give that response to the browser. It's not good. It's not a standard. So let's cache this page. Okay, so this is a controller for that about us page. So here the about action actually renders that page. You can see this is normal logs that we get for action that about us page. And you can see the views have taken half a second. That's the weird, seriously weird. So let's add page caching for that home page. And page caching gives this caches page helper. We just need to define our action or that page for that helper. And okay, So when next request after adding the page caching, it will render all the views, and it will also copy the entire that output from that views, and it will save under this public directory. You can see, I don't know you guys able to see this, but there is a write page, and public directory pages is nothing but your controller name, and that is about.html. That is the actual entire markup that we saved on our file system. Okay. So when next feature request comes, okay, so you won't see any logs, because that request will get served by directly by your web server. So yeah, so this is the importance of page caching. So we should use it when you have like blog post and you don't change frequently. Suppose you change once a week or once a month, then it really matters. You should use page caching for that. Okay, so invalidating page caching for non-model pages like about us, it didn't have any data we get from the object. Means it didn't have any dynamic content in it. So it was like full static page. To invalidate it, we have to manually delete it. Okay, but pages like blog post. So for that, there is a helper, expire page, and you can define your action, expire, or you can also pass controller name over there. Okay, like this. Because sweeper also helps to invalidate the cache. So that is the difference. Okay, let's see the action caching. Okay, so action caching is the same as page caching, but it hits your rel stack to run your before filters. That's the difference between page caching and action caching. So to install action caching, you just need to install this action caching gem, and it is internally it uses fragment caching. Fragment caching. It is a special case of fragment caching. Okay, let's say we want to cache this page, and it also has some kind of before filter. So see this home control is responsible for that home page, and that index action actually renders that page, that action. Okay, so we do have here before filter over here, and we print some kind of text over there, or we do some kind of processing, like if you want to check authentication, if you want to do some kind of restriction on your request. So that kind of logic we can do here. So, so you can see the for first request, this is without caching. So it runs as it is. So response time is 152 ms. Weird. Okay. So let's cache that action using action caching. And action caching gives this helper, caches action. And we just need to pass that action name. Here I also pass some options like, means I don't want to cache my action for JSON request. And I also want to expire it after 30 seconds. Okay? So this kind of option we can pass to this helper. There are lots of, but yeah, I just mentioned some of here. Okay, so after adding the action caching, the first request will be like this. It will render all the views, and it will also write a fragment. You can, I don't know, there is a statement like, there is a log like write fragment views localhost, something like that. It has copied all your output and store that output in this fragment, okay? Again, in the cache. And that fragment is nothing but the that cache key, and that's get generated through the action caching. So if you see the cache key, it gets created based on your request URL. So you can see the localhost and that home and that action name. So yeah, that's it. And in future request for that page, home page, you can see the before filter gets executed, and cache copy got it got returned to the your browser. So okay, so invalidating action caching. Yeah. So for that we have this expire action, and we get this helper from action caching gem, and it also takes some kind of it also takes other parameters like your controller name, your action name. Okay, so fragment caching. Fragment caching is a Rails own mechanism. Okay, so uh, so when you nowadays every real world application they do have dynamic content. Okay, so the pages like some pages they do have they do have different components on one page, but we want to cache those components separately. Means we want to cache those separately, and we also want to expire those separately. For this scenario, fragment caching comes into the picture. Okay. Okay, this is the dashboard page, and we have three dynamic components like all orders, popular products, new users. And yeah, so but we want to cache only these components like popular products and new users. Let's take an example for popular products. Okay, so in this page, in this view, in this component for popular products, we want to cache each product on this page. Okay, so we want to cache that view part inside of that do block. We want to cache it. Okay, so there is a helper method like cache. Okay, and we also pass that product object over there. So it will create some kind of key, and it will store that block, that views part into that under that key. Okay. So next time the request will come, it will not render this part, that the do block part. It will fetch from the cache memory. Okay. Let's see how cache key gets generated for this model object when we pass to the cache helper. And this cache helper we get from the fragment caching. Okay, you can see there is a product ID. That is actually a product ID of your product object, and there is a timestamp for your updated at column. Okay, and also there is a cache digest for your dashboard page. Okay, so so when your object gets changed, that time your updated at will get updated, and it will invalidate this cache, and it will create new cache key, and it will store the new data under that new key. Okay, so this is the how cache. This is just explanation for how cache key gets generated. Okay, to expire fragment caching, if you are using fragment caching for model, you don't need to anything. Rails will handle, or Rails will take care of it. But you have some kind of, if you are giving some kind of strings for cache block, so then you have to manually delete it. Okay, so for that you can use expire fragment name of cache. Okay, so there are also other helpers like cache if and cache unless. If suppose there is a condition like if user is your admin or not, something like that, and then you want to invoke that cache thing. So that for that we do have this kind of helpers. Okay, Russian doll caching. So suppose sometimes we want to suppose in page we want to cache products as well as its related comments also, and we want to cache it differently. Okay, and we also want to expire it differently. For that scenario, Russian doll comes into the picture. Okay, so here you can see there is a product view template, and we are caching that product, that template, and we are also rendering the comments as well. And in the comment view, we also want to cache that comment. Okay, so the importance of Russian doll caching is that when when object gets updated, so its other inner parts or other inner fragments content can be reused while generating the outer one. So, but there is a problem. if suppose comment gets updated, still we might get stale data because product cache from product, we are rendering comments from the product cache, and we are not invalidating product as well. So for that, if you want to invalidate product, we have to add code like this, touch true. So when your comments get updated, it will automatically update your product data as well. So it will invalidate your product cache as well as your comments cache for views. Okay, low levels caching. Low level caching, it uses Rails Cache API, and it has other helpers like read, write, and fetch. Okay. So okay, let's take one example. Our app is damn slow when we fire requests to Spark service to get Spark listings, and we also sometimes get Spark API limit error. And we have this code, and the problem is our app is small, and we have basic plan with Spark API. Okay, so and they allow only 1,000 requests per second. And that's the problem. That's why we get these issues, because we have enough users and they frequently use this API. To solve this, we have used rails.cache.fetch, and we have cached that API's result into the cache memory, and that's it. So yeah, so this is the benefits of low-level caching. So we have saved money, we have saved response time as well. That is awesome. Yep. Okay, SQL caching is an inbuilt feature that we all know. So we don't need to do anything. Rails will take care of it. Suppose in your action, if you define post.all, okay, in some line, and after some or second or third line, if you define same post.all, from first line, it will fire the query, and it will save that result set into the cache memory. And for second call, it will fetch from that cache memory. It will not actually fire the query again to the database. Okay, cache store. So Rails caching, actually Rails gives this kind of cache stores to handle the cache memory. The memory store, file store, memcache store, node store, and user-defined store. Okay, so there are some limitations for memory store and file store if you want to use on the production mode. But if you want to use caching for big application and for production mode, then go with memcache store, because it's a preferred store in Rails community. Okay, so by default, file store is enabled. Okay, so cache key can hold any object that can respond to cache key and to param. I have to go fast because time is less. Okay, this is one of the most important. Conditional get support. Actually, conditional get to use means it is used for HTTP caching. Okay, so like your web server actually tells to the browser to pull its cache when it's something like that. Okay, so conditional get support. So your browser needs to set this kind of headers, HTTP if none match and HTTP if modify in the request. When server matches these headers against this a tag and last modified this data. To handle all this conditional get support, Rails provide this kind of these helpers like stale and fresh when helpers. Okay, this is the example. Here we want to cache show action using HTTP caching, and we are calculating last modified and a tag through this method. Okay, so when first request comes, Rails will send the response back along with this data. Then browser will save this data, and it will also store that cache in its cache memory. When browser makes same request, then it will send this data. It will pick that data, this data, and it will set into those headers. And okay, it will again send to the server. Then server actually checks if it matches or not. If it matched, then your Rails server send sends back response with not modified, and that would be the status, and response will be the empty body. Okay, this is all about caching, and okay, at least use fragment caching or conditional caching if you have big Rails app. So at least use this. Or if you are using, or if you are consuming lots of APIs, third-party APIs, then go with low-level caching. Okay, thank you. Yep.